we have a lot of people from this area that follow the Baltimore Orioles or the Baltimore Ravens, and a guy that is a legend in the Baltimore area, a guy that has a talk show every day in the Baltimore region. I'm talking about my good friend, Nestor Aparicio. Nestor, how are you today?
Billy, what's going on, man? How's life up there in Filthy, huh?
It's doing well. We're going through a transition with the Phillies, and you know about transitions with the Orioles. And, of course, we have the Eagles, and, people a little reluctant with a new head coach. And we have the Sixers with the Simmons kid, Ben Simmons, and Embiid coming in this year. So it's a lot of hope for the future.
You know about rebuilding with the Orioles. That's funny how you say that. The big story around here this week's been no one at the games. And this has been a very competitive team. The last 4 years they've tried to win, which they spent a long time not really trying to win, trying to make money. They've made a lot of money. Now they've won a little bit. Certainly spent some money in the offseason last year. But, it must really break your hearts in Philly to see Jay Happ pitching like this in Toronto. I know it's breaking our hearts to see that. But we signed Gallardo. We signed Jimenez. These are the guys the Orioles decided to go to war with. And, the ship's either going to float or sink based on how they do. And it's good to be on with you, man. Hey, whatever you do, don't burn that damn place down. I'm coming up with Bruce Springsteen next Wednesday and Friday.
We will not do that.
You got to keep that place standing at least one more week so I can get through 2 more ball shows.
Now, you bring up a good point. The Orioles are right in the hunt for a wild card spot. And I'm really surprised only 15,000 people showed up for a game against a division rival like Toronto. I mean, they're atop the division. The Orioles are only 4 games out of first place, and they're sitting tied in the wild card with the Red Sox. I'm really shocked. What is going on in Baltimore?
Well, look, man, I don't take phone calls anymore. I do segments like this with you, but I take my phone calls on the internet, right? I mean, people comment on Facebook, they comment on Twitter, they get their sentence in, they get their point of view. They can write me a book if they wish to online. And I've heard everything, right, Billy? So let's start with this. The owner's a creep, right? I mean, for a quarter of a century, there are a lot of people like me who either choose to go more infrequently, not at all, buy the cheaper tickets. The other part of it is it's the same problem football has, basketball, hockey. You can stay home, watch the Flyers, and never give them a nickel of your money and still have a good time with the Flyers, right? Or the Eagles or any other sports team, and we're all paying through the nose in our cable bills. We know this is how these people are getting rich. Here, people have become very accustomed to watching it on TV. We're all paying for it. We know Peter's getting rich off of that. The other part is back in the winter, and this goes directly to the way the psychology of the franchise. The old man decides that he's not going to send out season ticket renewals until he figures out whether he needs to give Chris Davis $160 million or not. And they waited, and once they signed Chris Davis, a week later, all the tickets went up 20%, and then he sent the season tickets out. The season ticket, they didn't ask for your money until Valentine's Day, Billy. Now, in the history of North American sports, and I've had a lot of sports executives on here this year, there's never been a sports franchise. And anybody in your audience that owns season ticket books for the Eagles, the Sixers, the Flyers, the soccer team, anybody up there, you get your season tickets as early as they can send them because they want your money, but they also have to set the pricing, right? These knuckleheads didn't set the pricing until Super Bowl week, and they sent the season tickets out, and a lot of, corporations just said, well, we didn't get the bill last year. We've already appropriated the money. We'll just buy tickets when we come. We don't need our 29-game plan or our 13-game plan. We didn't use the parking. We didn't use the orange carpet. We didn't go and shake hands with the backup catcher or whatever. And everything about this season, from a crowd standpoint, has been down from day one. Now, that being said, weather was horrible early in the year. We had a lot of rainy nights. We had a lot of hot nights. Then I hear the excuse, well, my kids are in school and it's a weeknight. Here's the fact of the matter, Billy. It's fun to stay home. It's cheaper to stay home. It's easy to stay home. If you can stomach the Homer broadcasters, and especially when they work for the Mr. Angelos and Sons Network. I mean, what I see every night on television here with Rick Dempsey and Tom Davis, pre- and post-game, it's a disgraceful, non-appealing broadcast that doesn't really attract new people. It's not fun. It's fun for old white guys like you and me that have been watching baseball, in your case since Babe Ruth, and in my case since Mike Schmidt. That's my dig at you, Philly.
Right.
But I would say this, in the modern era, I don't see kids begging their parents to take me down to the ballpark, and then the parents are like, it's going to cost me $1.50, $200 to take my kid to a game on a Sunday. Do I really want to do that? Is it that much fun? Can I take them to Aberdeen? Can I take them to Frederick? Can I take them to Bowie? Minor league baseball's out there. And then there's just, I don't see them making new fans. Certainly any fans of any, ethnicity in our marketplace. And we have a burgeoning Latin community. I don't see them being reached to. And they do an awful job of public outreach here as a baseball team. And most people don't feel warm and fuzzy about the franchise of the Orioles. Some people do, and, I get it, but it is mixed. And then there's the other part of, and this is what Angelos would say, Billy, let me tell you, they put a team 38 miles down the road. They took all of my fans, and I got the TV network. I told you this would happen. We'd have trouble drawing if we put a team in D.C. That's what Angelos would say, and it's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, man.
All right, let's turn to the Baltimore Ravens. All right, let's start to the Ravens. What do you see for the Ravens? I mean, Perman's going to play. A first-round pick of a year ago, the wide receiver.
Well, we think he's going to play. I won't believe it till I see it. None of us will.
All right. What do you take out of training camp for the Ravens? You like what you see right now?
I like that the first-team offense, the first time they went out on the field, looked like they knew what they were doing. I'd also like to think that they're going to get better as the offensive line gets better. I'll tell you this. You got one of the best ones up there, and I've said this on your air, and I'll say it to anybody. Joe Flacco is one of the best dudes that, I'm 32 years into doing this, 25 years on radio. I've never met a better guy, a better competitor, a more humble guy in a lot of ways, but he's got a lot of street Philly in him. And he has undergone this injury that, we've seen what it did to Carson Palmer and Tom Brady and others. That took him a little while to adjust, and maybe Joe Flacco will go through that. But I'll tell you, from the minute the bell has rung in the beginning of training camp, day one, he hasn't missed a rep. He hasn't missed a snap. There's been nothing he can't do that he looks uncomfortable doing, including running. He's wearing his red jersey out there in his knee brace during practices. But I'll tell you this, he looks ready to go. So if there's anything to recommend the Ravens, and I don't know about the back end of the defense. You know more about Eric Weddle than I do with your San Diego background and your, affiliation with the Chargers. He's a leader,
I'll tell you that. He's a leader.
Boy, what a good guy. And what a good guy Ben Watson was, too. And Mike Wallace seems to be a real reputable fellow and, well-liked guy here. And they brought Steve Smith in. Ozzie has a great track record with bringing in veteran guys. And, I hope the defense in the backside, we've been waiting for someone to replace Ed Reed. But I'll tell you this, I think Joe Flacco is ready to go. And because of that, and because of the track record of the coaches and the front office and what they've done here, I'm going to have some faith. And they have an easy schedule to begin with. They begin against Buffalo. They begin against Cleveland. I mean, they should be 2-0 going to Jacksonville, and we'll see what they got under the hood. But, if they could get off to a 4-1, 4-2, 5-3 kind of start, I think they'll be okay. So my bet on them is above 500, but you'd have to give me double odds to say they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, I think they'll win 8 or 9, maybe 10, maybe 11, but probably not 5 again. Something catastrophic would have to happen for that to happen, in my opinion.
All right, Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, I should say, Jim's brother. John is, I consider, one of the best coaches in the NFL. And you've been around Harbaugh a lot. I mean, he really, really presents the product well, doesn't he?
I'd say this. He's really become outspoken. I mean, he came down from Philly, and, I know how Andy ran the shop up there, and we had Brian here, and it was, it was black and white the way Brian runs the place versus the way John runs the place. I mean, John is paranoid about everything. Brian was paranoid about nothing, literally, right? And so it was night and day. So the way John dealt with the media, the way he dealt with the players, the way he dealt with the community, all that stuff, I'll say this about John. John has become, with the ring, with, being a decorated guy now and an entrenched guy, he's become an outspoken guy. And as much as Colin Kaepernick is speaking his mind, whether you agree with it, hate it, love it, or whatever, he's speaking his mind. John Harbaugh has been speaking his mind about rules, about player safety, about coaching the game, the other night about injuries and preseason injuries and the value of these games, as well as about Colin Kaepernick and his brother and recruiting in college football. John Harbaugh has now earned the right, like an old, fart like us, to say whatever we want. He says what's on his mind, and that makes our job better, and I think it makes him more interesting. It makes him more of a leader, I think, in a perceived way amongst his peers. And I have all the respect in the world for John Harbaugh. I really do.
Nestor, you hit a grand slam home run today. I mean, you're absolutely amazing. You're full of vinegar.
Stop. I'm full of sugar.
Nah,
Let me tell you, Billy. This is honest to God. This is heart to heart. You know, my wife's had her life saved twice on the bone marrow registry. We're about 3 hours away from getting on a plane to go to Germany to meet him. So how about that? That's what I'm doing today. So I'm a little pepped up.
Well, you're always pepped up, and I'm wishing all the best for your wife, and because you've been through an awful lot with her, and you're just a quality guy. And I'll have to join you on your radio show when you get back from Germany. How about that?
Hey, we play the Eagles this year, so I'll call and yell at you about that. You know when I should have yelled at you was the week that I was up there for the Caps game, and all the electronics fell on the ice. You can Google this. I had Flacco out the next week, and I told him I was getting him a gift. And he's like, well, it depends what kind of gifts you're getting me. And what do you get for a guy who's got a $150 million contract? You're not giving him anything.
McDonald's.
You know what I gave him? I got 2 of the Stay Classy shirts at the Flyers game that Sunday, and I gave him a Stay Classy Philly shirt. He loved it.
All right, great. All right, Nestor, I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Stay classy, Philly.
Nestor Aparicio, the voice of